Hi, I'm Marcel, and welcome to me screaming into the void most love books. Before I did the vlog, I did a blog because I'm that old. And going through one of my sort of old blog posts that was focusing on lesser known classical gems. So books that were over 60 years old that people weren't really talking about at the time. I found my two blog posts about, the books by Anne Bronte, the lesser known, at least at the time, Bronte sister. And I think that, she is more known today than she was when I wrote my blog posts. But I will always say that she needs to be even more known. They were three sisters, Anne, Emily, and Charlotte. Charlotte being the oldest, and Charlotte being the one who survived. Emily died very young, and Anne followed not so long behind. And Charlotte was the one who ended up being sort of the responsible for both sisters' legacy, including all of the literature that, she wrote. And one of the reasons why Anne Bronte isn't as known today, even if she's more known today, is because, and we know this, it's been documented, that Charlotte didn't want Anne's two books, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall and Agnes Grey, to be republished the same way that she wanted Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte to be republished. Now, Charlotte argued this by saying that she was just looking out for her little sister. And maybe she did, maybe she didn't. That is an impossible task to actually explain because we don't know what is in Charlotte's mind. What we do know is that Anne Bronte wrote very, very different than her two siblings. Now, Emily Bronte, sweet, sweet child. And I'm saying this actually loving the book Wuthering Heights up until the point I'm discussing Wuthering Heights with someone else who says they love Wuthering Heights. Just wrote a tragic love story to her brother. There is very little actual critique in her books. You can read critique into her books, but there is little to say that Emily actively wanted to critique something with her book. Charlotte is a bit of a different story, and that's probably where Charlotte and Anne collided. Even though this, of course, is just speculation. Anne is brutal in her two books. Agnes Grey is about a governess who works with young children and brutally sort of shows how these spoiled children become spoiled adults. And in The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, which is about a young woman who has had to run away from her abusive husband, was a part of sort of the upper crust at the time. She very clearly puts on display the consequences of excessive drinking and violence that was allowed. I mean, no one said, yeah, of course men should hit their wives because they're drunk and stuff like that, but it was accepted, boys will be boys. And it's so interesting because there is so much critique that can be read out of Charlotte Bronte's books. I mean, one thing is Jane Eyre, which does show colonialism, even if the guy doing the colonialism is also the guy that we are supposed to root for. That's a completely different story. But I think probably one of the things that separate Anne and Charlotte is that Charlotte is indirectly commenting. She is indirectly sort of, okay, maybe this isn't as positive as we are letting it slide. Maybe we should do something different. Have we thought of these consequences, especially for women? I mean, Charlotte Bronte was a very close friend with Elizabeth Gaskell. Elizabeth Gaskell is known for her critique of what were happening with class disparity and the new working class. I mean, it's weird to think that Charlotte Bronte didn't intend her societal critiques to be there in her books. But again, they're indirectly. They're sort of, well, for example, in The Professor, showing how vulnerable society has created young girls due to their education and how their education has happened. Or Villette, in the same situation. What can a young girl do if she is not allowed to earn her own money? They're sneaky critiques, sort of just trying to nudge you a little bit. Maybe we should do something else. Maybe we should talk. Can we just talk about this thing happening? Adds a sledgehammer. Which is probably why I like her. She is, you know where Anne stands. She's very clearly stating, you're an idiot. Stop it. And I get Charlotte. Poor Charlotte. I mean, what? I'm sorry. I can see this scene with Anne standing there yelling at this dumb guy doing some idiot stuff. And Charlotte is trying to just, you're not helping. You're not helping. Yeah, so maybe that's what happened with Anne Bronte. People didn't really like a sledgehammer. I do. I like sledgehammers. Especially if you are as talented as Anne Bronte was. Okay, only if you are as talented as Anne Bronte was. So what are your favorite Bronte book? And why? You're allowed to say Wuthering Heights. I won't hold it against you. And thank you for listening to me screaming into the void.